Well, thank you for joining me for this reading of the Pilgrim's Progress in Modern English. So I have translated this into modern English, and today's reading, this section today, I'm titling Christian and Faithful's Journey. Now, sometimes pride is a massive problem for us. All of us, dear friend, have a pride problem to one degree or another, regardless of whether or not we realize it or not. And sometimes pride keeps us from receiving help from other people that God has sent into our lives, because we need that. So today in this reading, keep that in mind as we read about Christian's journey here today, and this will hit home with us today. So let's jump into the reading now. As Christian continued on his way, he came to a small hill that was made for pilgrims just like him to see what was ahead. So Christian went up. He looked forward and he saw Faithful in front of him on the journey. Christian called out loudly, "Hey there, wait up and I'll join you." Faithful looked back and Christian called again, wait until I catch up with you." But Faithful answered, "No, I'm running for my life and the avenger of blood is right behind me." Hearing this, Christian was motivated, and using all his strength, he quickly caught up to Faithful and even managed to pass him. So the last became the first. Christian smiled, feeling proud of himself for getting ahead of his friend. But because he wasn't paying enough attention to his steps, he suddenly tripped and fell. He couldn't get up. He couldn't get up until Faithful came over and helped him up. Then in my dream, I saw them continue on together, very kindly and full of love, sharing stories of everything that had happened to them on their journey. Christian began by saying, "My dear and honored brother Faithful, I'm so glad I've caught up with you, and I'm grateful to God for giving us such harmony and spirit that we can walk this pleasant path together." Then Faithful said, "Man, I thought, my dear friend, that I would have your company from the very beginning, right from our town, but you got ahead of me, so I had to make this part of the journey all alone." The Christian said, "How long did you stay in the city of destruction before you set out after me on your journey?" Faithful said, "I stayed until I couldn't stand it any longer. Soon after you left, there were a lot of talk in our city. People were saying that the city would soon burn down to the ground with fire from heaven." The Christian said, "Wait, what? Did your neighbors really say all that?" Faithful, "Yes. For a while, it was all anybody could talk about." Christian, "And did no one else but you leave and escape the danger?" Faithful, "Even though, as I said, everyone was talking about it, I don't think they really believed it. During the heat of those discussions, I heard some people mockingly talk about you and your desperate journey, as they called it. But I believed, and I still believe, that our city's end will come through the fire of this brimstone that's going to come raining down from above. So I made my escape." Christian said, "Did you hear anything about our neighbor Pliable?" Faithful, "Yes." Christian, "I heard that he followed you until he reached the Slough of Despond. Some said he fell in, but he didn't want people to know about it. I know for sure that he got himself pretty badly covered in all that mud." Christian, "And what did the neighbors say about him after that?" Faithful, "Since he turned back, he's become a target of ridicule. And from that, all sorts of people. Some, they mock him and they despise him. And hardly anyone will even give him work now. His life is now 7 times worse than it was before he left the city." Christian, "But why are they so against him? They also despise his journey that he gave up on. Why are they being so hard on him now?" "Oh," they say, "forget him. He's just a traitor. He wasn't loyal to his claim to believe. I think even God has stirred up his enemies to mock him and to use him as an example because he abandoned the right path." The Christian said, "Didn't you speak with him before you left?" Faithful said, "I ran into him on the street once, but he looked away as he crossed to the other side. He wouldn't even look at me, like he was ashamed of what he had done. So I didn't say anything to him." Then Christian said, "When I first started out on this journey, I had high hopes for that man. But now I fear he'll be destroyed along with everyone else in that city. It reminds me of the saying, the dog returns to its vomit and the washed pig returns to its mud. Faithful, I fear the same thing, my friend. But who can stop what's destined to happen? The Christian said, well, faithful, let's leave him to his own fate and talk about what matters to us. Tell me, what have you experienced on the journey that so far? Because I know you must have encountered some of the same things I have, or else I would just have to wonder what's been going on in your life. Faithful, well, I did avoid falling into the slough of despond because I heard about all that you went through and that you fell into it. And I made it to the gate without much trouble, but I did run into a woman named Wanton who almost got me into a lot of trouble. Christian said, that's good that you escaped her trap. Joseph faced a similar challenge with her and he escaped, but it almost cost him his life. That's out of Genesis chapter 39, verses 11 through 13. What did she do to you? Christian asked. The faithful said, you can't imagine what a smooth talker she was unless you've dealt with her yourself. She tried very hard to make me turn aside and promise me all kinds of pleasures if I would just get off the path. Christian, but she didn't promise you the peace of a clear conscience, did she? Faithful, you know what I mean. She promised me all kinds of fleshly pleasures. Christian, thank God you escaped, my friend. The Lord will make sure those who are detestable fall into her trap. Faithful, man, I don't know if I completely escaped her or not. Christian, what do you mean? You didn't give in to her, did you? Faithful, no, I didn't defile myself. I remembered something I had read that helped me with this. Here's what I read. Her steps lead to hell. That's Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 5. So I closed my eyes and I avoided being tempted by her look. She got really angry. She said to me, you are detestable to me. And I walked away from her. The Christian said, did you face any other challenges after that? Then Faithful said, well, when I reached the base of the hill called Difficulty, I met a very old man who asked me who I was and where I was going. I told him I was a pilgrim on my way to the celestial city. Then he said, you look like a good, honest fellow. Would you like to stay with me for a while? I will pay you well. I asked his name and where he lived. He said his name was Adam the First, and he lived in the town of Deceit. I then asked what work he would have for me to do there and what kind of wages he would pay me. He told me the work involved all kinds of delights, and as a payment, I'd be his heir to the very end. I also asked what kind of home he kept that I would be staying in. He told me that his house was full of the best food and luxuries that all of his servants and his children were enjoying together. Then I asked how many children he had, and he said that he had 3 daughters, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, and that I could marry any of them that I wanted. And then I asked how long he expected me to stay with him. He replied, for as long as I live. Christian said, what? So what decision did you come to in the end? And Faithful said, well, at first, man, I felt a bit inclined, to be honest with you, my friend. I thought seriously about going with him because he spoke so kindly. But as I looked more closely at him, I noticed something written on his forehead. And it said this, put off the old man with his deeds. Christian, and then what? Faithful, well, suddenly it struck me like a blazing fire that no matter how nice this old man seemed to be and how much he flattered me, if I went to his house, he would sell me as a slave. So I told him to stop talking because I wasn't going anywhere near his house. Then he got very angry and he said that he was going to send someone after me to make my journey miserable. As I turned to leave, I felt him grab my flesh and give me such a hard pull that it felt like he had ripped part of me off. It made me cry out, "Oh, wretched man that I am!" Then I continued up the hill. When I'd gotten about halfway up, I looked behind me and I saw someone coming after me as fast as the wind. He caught up with me right on the spot where I was. And there was a bench right there, a bench to rest on. And that is where they caught up with me. Man, what an interesting allegory. We got to jump in right here today. Stop the reading for today. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. But man, isn't this is what we experienced. Think about this. When Faithful got to the part where it got hard, then here comes in the temptation, lust of the eyes, the pride of life, the lust of the flesh. And to go with him, and he will make life easy. How long will I stay there? Well, for the long as you live. Faithful, realize that there is something there that's going to enslave him. Leave off the old man. Flee from the old man. Man, that is what we face. Great allegory, because, dear friend, when you hit hard spots and seeking your kingdom purpose, living out your kingdom purpose in your generation, seeking first the kingdom of God, when you hit that, there's always going to come the temptation, an easier route, an easier way of comfort, pleasure, things that will make you think that life will be better if you go that direction. Man, if we could just have the discernment and realize that when I go that way, what's going to happen is it's going to enslave me. It's going to end in a bad place. And going up the straight path, the hard path, that's going to end in the right way. So, dear friend, keep your eyes focused on seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness throughout this day. And know this, as you seek your kingdom purpose in your generation, it will get hard, but don't let the temptations pull you off. Stick with following Jesus today, dear friend.